My name is Dagmara Bożek-Andryszczak. I am a specialist working at EDU-ARCTIC project, and I prepared for today a presentation containing many photos from the two Polish polar stations. Uh, it is the Polish polar station Hornsund on Spitsbergen in the Arctic, and Polish Antarctic station Arctowski on King George Island in the Antarctic. I had an opportunity to work in that two places for over 2 years. I will share with you my experience concerning working in that two polar stations. And that presentation contain photos concerning normal, regular daily life at the stations because we we are telling you a lot of science and other technical stuff and scientific stuff. So I decided to uh, prepare something dedicated to the special day that we celebrated on 21st of May. That is Polar Explorer Day. And it is a very interesting celebration because it was organized first in 2013 in Russian Federation. It is the Russian celebration, and it was the anniversary of establishing the drifting ice station that was called North Pole. It was the Russian station established in 1937 on 21st of May. And now that station is called North Pole 1 because it was renovated. And in Russian Federation, the definition of polar explorers, it is a little bit different than in Poland, for example, because there is a very huge term. There are specialists who not only spend many years in the Arctic and in the Antarctic regions, they are scientists, but as well workers that are involved in industry, oil and gas industry. There are military workers and indigenous people living in the high north because, for example, in Siberia, we have a lot of uh, ethnic groups of indigenous people living in that place. So there are also, let's say, polar explorers. In Polish, we have a word polarnicy, and in Poland, the term is a little bit different because there are people who participated in the expeditions to the south and to the north. And sometimes it is emphasized that polar explorers are those who spent 1 year. That it means that they overwintered in the polar region. So I think that group in Poland may vary from a few hundred to 1 or 2 thousand of people. So it is not a huge group. And in Russian Federation, it's approximately 2 million of people. Okay, so we start from the Spitsbergen and from the Polish Polar Station in Horsund. So it is located, as you can see, on Spitsbergen Island. It's 77 degrees north. From Gdynia in Poland, it's more than 3,000 kilometers in a straight line. And that station belongs to Institute of Geophysics, Polish Academy of Sciences. And I spent the 1 year there from 2012 to 2013. And the second station is Polish Antarctic Station Arctowski on the southern hemisphere. And the distance is, of course, much more farther. It's more than 14,000 kilometers. And the station belongs to Institute of Biochemistry and Biophysics, Polish Academy of Sciences. And it is located not on the continent, it's not the Antarctica, but the Antarctic, the region that is more wide than the continent itself, and it is King George Island. And I spent there as well 1 year from 2015 to 2016. Okay, and I divided my presentation into a few categories. I would like to show you some photos concerning working and living in that two special for me places. So working conditions. If you would like to become a polar explorer, you need to cross the Arctic Circle and the equator. So it means that you are high meeting with the Neptune, with the king of the sea, and there are some special quizzes, games for those who are first time on a sea, on a ship. And we succeed. We obtained a diploma, and that was a interesting adventure, as you can see, but a funny one. On the Spitsbergen, we have polar bears. We talk a lot about this. So if you would like to work in Polish Polar Station Horsund, you need to have again, of course, have a special permission after passing an exam and taking gun everywhere when you are out of the station. Here are the correct way to take gun when there is no need to use it because there are no polar bears around. Uh, keep you have to keep it safe, like my colleague on the left side. Radio communication in the polar regions, we don't use mobile phones. It's impossible. That type of connection doesn't work, and we have satellite connection and the radio connection. The radio phone is one of the most important devices using to the daily communication with the station when you are in the field. There are also some natural characteristic of the field, of the terrain around the station, like crevasses on the glacier surface. It's not rather safe, but of course people are trained to behave in a proper way on doing their job. They know how to do it. Sometimes we have such kind of interesting forms on the glacier surface. Uh, I don't know how deep it was, but I think that it was it was quite deep. And of course, you need to be aware and not take a risk during your job. Sometimes there are funny situations like this when the automatic meteorological station that is on the glacier surface is too high to reach it by your own because during the summer period the surface of the glacier is melting. So that's why the whole equipment is more than 1 meter above the surface, and you need to somehow work work with that. Sometimes you need to go across the river because during the spring period, every, everything is melting. We have huge white rivers from the glaciers, for example, from the mountains. And if we would like to go farther, we need to go across the river. Of course, I'm smiling on that photo, but that water was terrifying cold. We have whiteouts. Of course, when we have such kind of conditions, we there is not a good solution to go outside for to the field or somewhere else from the station. But sometimes it may happen to us when we are in the field because the meteorological conditions are changing very rapidly, very fast in the polar regions. It's my favorite photo because, as you can see, there is no horizon in that photo. There is no difference between the glacier surface and the color of the sky. So it is very typical for Spitsbergen, for the Arctic. And it is very easy to become disoriented in that kind of conditions. On Spitsbergen, we experienced the polar night, that period that lasted for 3.5 months, so it's quite huge period. And after that, on the 12th of February, we had the first day when the sun rises up the horizon. So it is a huge celebration, not only for people working at the station, but for the rest in the Antarctic who who waited who wait uh, for that moment for so long. Physical work. There is a lot of physical work to do, especially when we are on the place and we have to unload the ship. We have a lot of cargo transported to the station, and everybody is involved in unloading the station because it's very important, and that equipment will be used for the rest of our wintering in the station. We at the two Polish polar stations we had two PTS, that is a big amphibia using for transportation from the ship to the shore and back, because without this it would be quite impossible. There is also a lot of dirt job. As you can see, people are helping each other. Guy on the left side is a mechanic, but guy on the right side is a scientist. And in that kind of place, like the polar station is, there are no differences between people. If, of course, everybody has his or her own duties, but if there is job to do, people help each other and are involved in many jobs to do it together. Sometimes when there is a lot of snow around the station, you need to dive in the snowbank. And if there are even worse bad weather, if there are even bad weather, but it is not it is very often for that kind of places in the earth. People are working because, for example, there is a problem with the satellite connection of with the power generators, and it's not like this that I will do it on Monday and now we have weekend. No, it's like this that we are, of, yeah, we have of course free time, but we are at the place where we work. So it means that if something is broken, we need to fix it. Scientific work, only a few photos because for me interesting ones, because there is a very huge topic and my colleague scientists talk a a lot about this via EDU-ARCTIC project. We had on Spitsbergen, for example, American scientists that were glaciospeleologists about the glaciospeleology as a discipline. Talked my colleague Jerzy Grzejewski on his EDU-ARCTIC lesson, and there is a photo made from the glacier surface and from the cave under the glacier. For me, it's quite impressive. Our American colleagues invited us to join them, but I was not sure about my qualification to go inside the cave, especially when I had a little bit of claustrophobia. But on Rostowski Station in the Antarctic, I participated very often with some field works concerning counting penguins population, for example, helping my colleagues. I was an administrative worker at the station. I was the administrator of the station, but as I have told you, at that kind of place, people are sharing their duties with each other. My colleague next to the meteorological automatic meteorological station, as you can see, it is on the right level, and he can reach it without any problems. Snowmobiles as the main way of transport at on Spitsbergen and on King George Island and in whole polar regions. It's a very useful and universal one. Kayak used in Arstowski Station, but it is only in one place close to the ecology glacier because there is a small bay that we need to cross when we are going to the field for ecologic monitoring. When you use motorboats, because they are widely used uh, at the both stations, you need to have special equipment, special Helly Hansen costume for this to be safe when you, for example, were on out of the board, and sometimes it is a real risk, especially when the sea water is very cold. But fortunately, we didn't have such kind of accident. That Helly Hansen costume sometimes uh, don't fit much. It's my photo. I use I don't know what size it was, XXXL or something. But yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not for fashion. It should be useful, and it was useful for me during the trip on a motorboat. Sometimes when the weather is good, of course, on that photos the weather is good because in polar regions very often there is a bad weather, and when you come back home, the weather is not for you a problem anymore. So my friends are joking that if there is heavy rain or I don't know, thunderstorm or something, I'm happy because there is not mm, for me a problem when you spend 1 year in a place where there is no sun almost for a whole year. You appreciate that you have a sun here in Poland, for example. And of course, when we were on the glaciers, we use special equipment as well. Safety first, it's very important in that kind of job. And free time. Free time, another category. In my presentation, there is a beach party organized on Spitsbergen. In that such kind of places like uh, polar stations, it's important to have an imagination because you don't go with your friends for a beer, for a restaurant, for shopping or somewhere else. You are in a one closed, let's say, group in a one isolated place, and if you are not a kind of imaginative person, if you don't have any hobbies, I think that a job at the polar station is not for you. Sunbathing when there was no sun. In August, we have a very strong um, rain. That was the record during our wintering. Our meteorologists were amazed how uh, how big amounts of rain we had. So of course it was rather a joke because we hoped that the weather would change, but it didn't. And here, real sunbathing on King George Island, but in that areas on the earth, on the earth, it's very important to take a sunbathing cream and very good sunglasses because the sun rays are very dangerous for your skin and for your eyes. Grill for on both stations were in use, and for the sausages were waiting not only us but the Antarctic squaw on the left as well. Yes, grilling second part on Spitsbergen. The first photo was taken on King George Island. Alright, swimming. We have some of my colleagues were courage have had enough courage to swim into that cold water, but as you can see, they were well prepared for it. They had gloves, they had caps, so yes, they nothing wrong happened to them. And on that photo taken in the Antarctic, there is the very end of our wintering, so it means that even if there is, let's say, the end of the winter, even if we have two degrees, 2+ degrees, and no wind, it means that it's very warm. So as you can see, sunbathing with a crab eater seal might be an option. Yes, I took my kite to Arctowski station to make some photos from above. Aerial photography, that is one of my hobbies, but it was quite difficult because wind in King George Island is very strong, and very often it changes its directions. So using kite was not so easy in that area. We have some football fans, of course, because somebody told that football is a Polish national game. I don't know why, to be honest. I'm a volleyball fan, so of course, at both stations we have two groups of the volleyball and football fans. But our satellite television very often was not so strong, so it depends on the weather whether we were we were able to watch the match or not. So in that kind of places, everything is depending on the weather. That was the party. We organized the party during the summer period one time in a week. It was in Saturdays. That was a perfect time for resting, for having fun, for dancing, because the rest of the week was regular days at the job, doing our job, doing our duties. Sundays were free out of work, and the Saturdays were perfect for spending time in a company with the rest of the group. And there is a photo taken on the Spitzbergen. It is the first anniversary of 100 days spent in the station. So why not? Some of them were playing cards, and some of them were playing volleyball, because yeah, there were volleyball fans like me. So me, there is a I of course was photographed on that photo. On the right side, there is me with the white, let's say, cap on my head with the ball. So that was a perfect weather for playing volleyball because there was no wind and only, I don't know, 0 degrees, but it was perfect, believe me. Some of us were taught how to play the piano because if you have free time, it's good option to obtain new skills, to learn something new. Climbing as well was a way of spending free time, and the daily routine. Daily routine, yes, there was a lesson, I think, conducted by my colleague from Polish Polar Station Horsund. She explained how to obtain water in that place. So during the summer period, we had a small lake close to the station, but in the winter it was frozen. So we took growlers from the fjord, and after that we put into the tank, and the ice was melting, and that's why we had water in the station. I have talked about the snowmobiles. So of course, they were used for transportation, for uh, going to some trips close to the station. But of course, it was one of our duties to take care of our snowmobile because each person had his or her own snowmobile for the whole wintering. So we need to tank it. We were responsible for the technical conditions of the equipment, and we were obliged to inform our mechanic about every technical problem. In the kitchen, there were all the time a lot of work to do because we were in a group of 10 people. So it means that if you are preparing something to eat, it's not only one portion, but more portions. Some of us had skills that they can prepare, for example, meat in a special way, traditional one. Some of them can bake bread because we had some supplies of frozen bread, but it was not so good. So at the station, it's normal that people are baking bread. At first, it's rather difficult, but sometimes, from in the middle of the wintering, you are you are perfect at baking bread. The same is with hairdressing, but now I know after the two winterings that it is not my skill and I'm not able to work as a hairdresser. But as you can see on Spitsbergen, I tried to. I really, really did. The same was on King George Island, but after that, I promised to myself not to cut the hair on myself, or when I if or maybe when I go to another polar station, of course I will be forced to do it. When you collecting the growlers from the Fiat and put it into that tank that is visible on that photo, from time to time you need to clean it because there is a mud and there is sand from the water on the bottom of that tank. So as you can see, I'm well prepared for doing that dirty, let's say, job. I talked about cooking and yes, about baking bread, preparing meals. For example, in both stations, we there is more men in the expedition than women, so it means that many of them are forced to learn something new, like cooking and baking. The first meals preparing by the members of the expedition were not so tasty, but from meal to meal, from day by day, they were obtaining the skills. And for example, my colleague prepared very tasty pancakes, and I remembered his first day at the kitchen, and it was a disaster. So as you can see, everybody is able to learn how to cook. On King George Island, there are strong winds. The Gulf of Winds are 200 kilometers per hour and more, to 150, 280 even. That was the record. So it's quite dangerous to go outside. But sometimes when you need to prepare a meal, dinner for the rest of the group, you need to go outside to the special building where there are fridges and where the deeply frozen food is stored. So I asked my colleagues to go with me. We took bags for the shopping, let's say. We took goggles because we knew that there is a strong wind outside with the snow. Holidays. Holidays because we spent in the station whole year, so it means that we celebrate Christmas, Easter, many anniversaries, many national holidays, and so on. So we prepare gingerbreads, for example, for Christmas. As well, there was a Christmas tree for Christmas. Of course, that was not a real Christmas tree because it's impossible to have in tundra trees. We celebrated the carnival, Halloween, and as I said, every Saturday we had fun. We organized parties, especially during the summertime, where at the station there are a lot of people, not only from Poland but from different countries as well. And of course, we didn't need to freeze water to have a piece of ice for drinks. We used growlers from the fjord, and my colleague hydrologist, was a real specialist in preparing small pieces of ice from the growlers. We celebrate the midwinter. The midwinter is the first day of astronomic winter in the Antarctic, and it is a very interesting celebration for every person that work on Antarctic that time. So we send greetings card, we organize some games and so on. And here on the northern hemisphere, on the 21st of June, we had the first day of astronomic summer. We celebrate as well our birthday. It's my birthday, 26th. Oh, that was a long time ago on Spitsbergen. On Spitsbergen, in our group, we had IT specialist who was also a very good guitar player. That was very practical for celebrating many holidays because he sang very good. And the feelings, it is the last part of the presentation, very short one, because I spent over 2 years in polar regions, and it is something special for me. It have changed my point of view, my attitude towards life, towards people, the world, towards myself. I experienced something new that is unusual for me, and not only for me. So I miss a lot that places, and I would like to one day, maybe I will have a chance to go to the polar regions again. There is something special in it. It is called polar syndrome or something, and the feelings are different during our stay. 1 year stay at the station there are different in the beginning of the wintering, they are different in the middle and in the end of the wintering. There are sad moments, there are happy moments, but every moment is special, I think. The thing that was one of the things that was so special for me was the cards and letters from many people from Poland. Not only from Poland, we even received cards from different countries, and people, students, adults, wrote us a lot of nice things about our job, about the hobbies concerning polar regions and so on. And it was something traditional because nowadays we didn't write and didn't receive letters. So it was something special to receive a traditional paper letter from somebody. Sometimes we feel alone because we were far away from our homes, from our friends and families. On Spitsbergen, we had dogs. Of course, they were there for a reason to protect us from the polar bears. But they were real friends as well, and they helped us somehow in the sad moments. In the Antarctica, it was not so easy because the Antarctic Treaty refuses to bring to the Antarctica, to the whole Antarctic region, any animals because it is strange species. It is not native species, non-native species. So we have mascots. It is also a solution. And to last photos, it is concerning with the feeling of missing something. When you are here in your country, in your home, it's good. It's good to have your friends and relatives around, but still it's something that you are missing something. You are thinking all the time about that places. It's something unusual in them. And I think that I don't know what I will do in my life, what kind of job I will do, what places I will see, but they are special for me. The polar regions are special. Okay, so it is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can ask me them now.